Hello, Kokomojo here. I hope the start of Dragonflight is treating you well. For this video, I want to talk through my favorite rogue build at the moment. It's a variant of the Hidden Opportunity Shadow Dance build that's been shared in the guides and class Discord, but with a couple of adjustments that I think make it more fun and possibly a better fit for practically running keys. So let's talk about the main playstyle of the build. It really revolves around getting ambush procs from your pistol shot, and then Hidden Opportunity makes your ambushes give pistol shot procs. So these two just feed into each other, and it ends up making this really satisfying gameplay loop of fishing for ambush procs and then using ambushes to fish for pistol shot procs. The other cool parts about this build are that you get Fan the Hammer, which is a strictly better version of the Blunderbuss legendary from the end of Shadowlands. It's no longer a proc, it just happens when you get opportunity. It's no longer a proc on top of opportunity, and it stacks up to 6 times. So it means you could have, in effect, think of it like having 2 procs of Blunderbuss that you could have stacked up. It's really quite potent. And then Greenskins is another legendary from the end of Shadowlands that was quite strong for Outlaw. This is going to give us some nice synergy between the eyes and our pistol shot. So we're going to be looking to be casting Between the Eyes on cooldown as often as possible, and then following it up with a half-cost pistol shot from Opportunity. So the main idea here is we're going to be opening from stealth. We're going to hit Adrenaline Rush, roll the bones. We're going to ambush. Let's get our Blade Flurry running. We're going to BTE, then pistol shot. Then we'll get a slice running. We got an ambush proc, so we ambush. And we can finisher. We got a pistol shot proc, so we spend it. And then we get a finisher. I'm not doing a good job of keeping the Blade Flurry up, but you would want to be doing that as well. And then we're just going to be getting into this core loop. And whenever we don't get many procs, this is where we're going to want to be using our Shadow Dance and Vanish to kind of fill this gap. So in this case, let's say I don't get a proc, I would Vanish and then ambush, and I don't get a proc there, so we're going to be building up some combo points, and then I'm going to Shadow Dance, and I'm going to be fishing for another proc. In this case, I'm going to wait and get one more ambush. I was hoping to get one more proc stacked up there, but didn't quite happen. And then that's kind of the core idea. We really only want to be using pistol shot at 3 or fewer combo points, because the pistol shot is going to give us 4 combo points total, so we don't want to be overcapping there. But this is kind of the core idea. I'll kind of press the buttons for a little while and you can see it in action, but this is the gist. In terms of roll buffs, Skull and Crossbones is very, very good for this build. It just makes the procs come more consistently and makes the whole rotation really flow. You're going to be able to just like be constantly getting procs, and it's really, really fun, especially if you get this and say like True Daring, so you just have crazy uptime on all of your cooldowns. It's really, really satisfying. So that's the main idea. Again, if we don't get procs, we're going to be bridging the gap with Shadow Dance and Vanish. We want to make sure that we're not really using these until we aren't getting procs, and then we're going to be using Vanish, Ambush, and then getting some pistol shot procs, spending those, and then getting back into this proc loop. If you have no procs and no cooldowns to generate procs, that's when you're going to be pressing Sinister Strike. There is one other situation you might run into where if you have no procs and no cooldowns to generate procs, and you've been spamming Ambush and then Sinister Strike to try to build a proc, you may find yourself at really low energy and not really able to press many of your abilities. In that situation, you want to use Blade Rush. This is where Blade Rush comes in. It's generally a low priority ability, but it will help you generate energy faster. It costs no energy to use, and it does okay damage. It's just not as high priority as pistol shot or ambush. This is the core build that I'm looking at. The main differences are adjustments to take evasion and numbing or trophic poison, fleet-footed, acrobatic strikes and shadow step. And then over in the Outlaw side, I want to get down to deft maneuvers. So it means I have to take this extra movement speed from hit and run, and I have to give up loaded dice and ambidexterity for it. Over in the class tree, I also need to give up a point in lethality, as well as a point in subterfuge just to save on this path here. And honestly, these are they're pretty impactful talents. I ran a sim and it looks like subterfuge and 2 points in lethality versus the 1 point is a pretty noticeable DPS gain. It's around 2,500 DPS overall. This is a pretty noticeable difference. But I would say that the utility that's gained by getting acrobatic strikes, getting evasion and numbing poison, the extra movement speed, both from the class tree and from the Outlaw tree, as well as the extra melee range, both all the time and while Blade Flurry is up, is likely worth it, at least for me personally. I think early on when I'm learning the dungeons myself, I'll want to have all of this utility. I think that's going to make a bigger impact than around 4 or 5% DPS. Though for people running really, really high keys where every bit of DPS matters, then that trade-off may end up being quite different. There's definitely some flexibility here. You can drop a point in acrobatic strikes and get this extra damage. Or over here on this side, you could get rid of extra range during Blade Flurry and pick up loaded dice or ambidexterity. There's definitely some options where you can make adjustments as you see fit, depending on what you need, but this is the build that I'm going to be starting with, at least for now. I think my favorite things about this build really are the extra range and extra movement speed. You are as fast as a Ghost Wolf at 130% move speed, so mobility during fights is really, really great. You also have crazy melee range. Like, look at this. This feels like Survival Hunter from the last couple of seasons. It's really outrageous. You're really, really safe. You can play pretty much wherever you want during fights and be, in range, dealing damage. It's pretty fun. You have a ton of mobility cooldowns as well. You have Shadow Step, you have Grapple, and you have Improved Sprint, so 1 minute sprint. You have all the mobility options you could possibly want. It's pretty ridiculous. Overall, the build is really fun because you get all the fun utility of Outlaw, plus the fun playstyle of this Shadow Dance Hidden Opportunity build. I think this build is really strong. This is, the kind of normal build that you see in the guides. This is what it looks like. We're getting the same playstyle as this build, with the build that I shared, just with a little bit of extra utility, right? This build is missing deft maneuvers and hit and run, but you gain ambidexterity, you gain loaded dice. These are definitely pretty strong, but the big gains are going to be in subterfuge, which is going to let you cast more ambushes out of stealth, and also lethality, which is just like free damage. You don't even have to think about it. But for the build that I'm playing, really the main playstyle stays the same. The only difference is in the opener, you're not going to be able to cast as many ambushes to get kind of the proc engine running. You're going to have to rely on your cooldowns to do that. So that's the main idea. It's a really fun build. It's really bursty. The procs feel really satisfying when you get into a groove. It feels fairly consistent, even though it's proc based. You have a pretty high chance of getting those procs. So the build feels fast paced. Between reacting to the procs or reacting to the lack of procs and using the appropriate cooldowns while keeping all of the plates spinning that are Blade Flurry, BTE, and Roll the Bones. It's a really, really fun build. highly recommend it. So yeah, this is the main idea behind the build. This is the variant that I'll be playing, at least to start. I'll let you know if I make any adjustments here, but this has been pretty fun so far in the M0 World Tour that I did. I'll post some videos of some of the new dungeons and some things to look out for as a rogue that you can do to help the team out as well. I think there's definitely a lot of potential for rogue this season. I'm pretty excited to play it. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and good luck out there.